The soft blue glow of multiple computer screens lit up Thomas Reed's face as his fingers danced across the keyboard. The clock on his desk showed 2:30 a.m., a normal working hour for him. As a cybersecurity specialist who worked remotely, he had the freedom to choose his hours, and he had always been a night owl. A quiet beep from his phone reminded him that his cleaning service would arrive soon. He had specifically chosen Starbright Cleaning because they offered 24/7 service. The company's ads promised cleaning that works around your schedule, not the other way around. Perfect for someone like Thomas who lived life when most people were asleep. He took a sip of his cold coffee and continued typing, barely registering the soft whoosh of his apartment's smart lock disengaging. The cleaning service had their own access code, another modern convenience that made his unusual lifestyle possible. "Good evening, Mr. Reed," a pleasant voice called out. Thomas raised his hand in greeting without looking away from his screens, deeply focused on tracking a potential security breach for one of his clients. The cleaning always started in the kitchen, following a precise pattern that Thomas had noticed over the past few months. There was something oddly satisfying about the perfect consistency. Each night, the same sequence, the same thorough attention to detail. But tonight, something caught his attention. The sound of cleaning seemed different, faster, more efficient. Thomas glanced at the kitchen through the open door of his home office. The maid moved with surprising speed and precision, almost too perfect in her movements. He checked the time again, 2:45 a.m. Usually, the kitchen alone took 30 minutes, but tonight, it already looked spotless. The counters gleamed, the dishes were put away, and the floor shone under the dim lights. Thomas rubbed his tired eyes. Maybe he was imagining things. He had been staring at code for too long. Still, there were other small details that had been bothering him lately. The way his books were always arranged not just by size, but by exact measurements down to the millimeter. How his groceries in the fridge were organized in perfect geometric patterns. The way his cables were bundled in mathematically precise curves. Out of professional curiosity, he had looked up Starbright Cleaning online. Their website was flawless, almost too flawless. Their social media presence was minimal, but had perfect ratings. Every review used proper grammar and punctuation, which anyone who spent time online knew was highly unusual. The maid moved to the living room, and Thomas opened a new browser tab. He started doing what he did best, digging deeper. The company's digital footprint was strange. Their business registration was perfect, their paperwork immaculate, but there was something artificial about it all. As a cybersecurity expert, he had developed a sixth sense for things that seemed too good to be true. A small sound made him look up. The maid stood in his living room, holding some kind of device in her hand. It wasn't any cleaning tool he recognized. It emitted a faint purple glow and made a soft humming noise. She was slowly moving it across his entertainment system, his gaming console, his smart home hub. Thomas's heart rate picked up. This wasn't normal cleaning behavior. He quietly pulled up the Starbright Cleaning Service website again, this time running it through some deeper analysis tools. The results made his eyes widen. The entire site was running on some kind of code architecture he had never seen before. The maid moved closer to his office, and he quickly closed his analysis tools. He would have to be careful about this. Something very strange was going on with his cleaning service, and he was determined to figure out what it was. But for now, he pretended to focus on his work, all while keeping one eye on his unusual nighttime visitor. The night was about to get much more interesting than he had planned. Thomas watched through the reflection in his monitor as the maid approached his office. The strange purple device in her hand pulsed with a soft light. He pretended to type, but his fingers merely hovered over the keyboard. Years of cybersecurity work had taught him that sometimes the best way to uncover the truth was to let others think they weren't being watched. The maid stepped into his office. In the brighter light of his computer screens, he could see her more clearly now. She looked normal enough. The standard Starbright uniform, neat appearance, regular cleaning equipment attached to her belt. But that purple device definitely wasn't for cleaning. "Excuse me," Thomas said casually, spinning his chair around. "I don't think that's a vacuum cleaner." The maid froze. For a moment, she stood perfectly still, too still. No human could hold that level of stillness. Even her chest didn't move with breathing. "You are correct," she said finally. Her voice had changed, becoming more mechanical. "This is a technology scanner. I must now ask, how long have you suspected?" Thomas leaned back in his chair, trying to look calmer than he felt. The cleaning patterns were too perfect. Nobody cleans with mathematical precision. Plus, your company website uses code I'd never seen before. And I've seen a lot of code. The maid's appearance flickered slightly, like a TV with bad reception. Then, her human appearance faded away completely. In her place stood a tall, slender figure with silvery blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the computer screen's light. Her eyes were large and completely black, like polished obsidian. "My name is not Alice, as my cleaning service profile states," she said. "I am an observer from the Stellar Confederation. We have been studying human behavior through service industries." Thomas nodded slowly, surprised at how unsurprised he felt. "That actually explains a lot. The perfect cleaning, the weird website, the night shifts. But why cleaning services?" The alien, former maid, moved with fluid grace as she pulled up a chair. "Your species is unique in many ways, but one thing fascinated us most. Your ability to be active at any time, day or night. Most intelligent species we've encountered are strictly bound by their planet's day-night cycle." "So you're saying other aliens don't work night shifts?" Thomas asked, genuinely curious now. "Precisely. When we first observed humans working at night, we thought our equipment was malfunctioning. No other species we know of can so easily adjust their natural rhythms. We needed to study this up close, so we created Starbright Cleaning." Thomas laughed softly. "Of all the ways aliens could study humans, you chose to be cleaning staff." "It was logical," she replied. "Cleaning services enter private spaces, observe natural habitats, and work all hours. Perfect for studying human behavior. What we didn't expect was for someone to notice us." "Well," Thomas said, gesturing at his screens full of code, "you probably should have picked a different cover for studying a cybersecurity expert's home." The alien's head tilted slightly. "This is another fascinating human trait. You find humor in serious situations. I have just revealed the existence of alien life, yet you make jokes. Would you prefer I panic?" Thomas asked with a small smile. "This is exactly why we find humans so interesting. Your adaptability extends beyond just your sleep cycles. You adapt emotionally, mentally, socially." She paused, looking at her scanner. "I should not be telling you any of this. This conversation violates multiple protocols." "Let me guess," Thomas said. "Your bosses don't know you're having this chat with me." The alien's silvery skin rippled in what might have been the equivalent of a nervous fidget. "No, they do not. This revelation was not authorized. It will cause complications." Thomas felt a mix of excitement and concern. He had just become part of something much bigger than his quiet night shift life. "Well," he said, reaching for his cold coffee, "why don't you tell me about these complications? Seems like you might need some human-style problem-solving." Thomas made a fresh pot of coffee. He had a feeling this would be a long conversation, and his midnight brain needed the fuel. His alien visitor watched with obvious curiosity as he poured 2 cups. "Would you like to try some?" he offered, holding out a cup. "Or is caffeine toxic to your species?" The alien's silvery skin rippled with what looked like amusement. "We can safely process most human foods. Our research includes studying your eating habits." She accepted the cup carefully. "Though I must admit, I've been curious about this particular drink. So many night workers consume it. It helps us stay awake," Thomas explained, watching as she examined the liquid. "Though I'm guessing your species doesn't need that kind of help." "No," she said, taking a small sip. Her large black eyes widened slightly. We follow strict biological rhythms. Our entire civilization operates on precise schedules. The idea of artificially extending waking hours is, she paused, searching for the right word, revolutionary. Thomas settled back in his chair. So how does your society handle work that needs to be done at night? Security, emergency services, that kind of thing. We don't, she replied simply. All critical systems are automated during rest periods. The entire species rests at the same time. It's one of the founding principles of the Stellar Confederation, the harmony of natural cycles. That sounds limiting, Thomas said carefully. What about space travel? Different planets have different day lengths. The alien set down her coffee cup. We adjust our ships and colonies to match our homeworld cycle. It never occurred to us to adjust ourselves instead. She looked at him with what seemed like newfound respect. This is why humans fascinate us. You don't adapt your environment to your needs. You adapt yourselves. Thomas thought about all the night shift workers he knew. Nurses, security guards, IT professionals, factory workers. We just do what needs to be done. Different people, different schedules. It works for us. But it's more than that, she insisted. Your adaptability extends to everything. Look at your home. You've modified your living space to support your nocturnal schedule. Blackout curtains, time-shifted meal planning, creative use of automation. She gestured at his coffee maker. Even your biochemistry, you alter it to match your chosen rhythm rather than your natural one. I never thought of it as special, Thomas admitted. It's just normal for us. What else have you learned about humans that surprised you? The alien skin shifted through several subtle color patterns. Your ability to maintain multiple social groups across different time zones. Your casual approach to changing schedules. The way you treat jet lag as a minor inconvenience rather than a major disruption. She paused. We thought humans were primitive when we first discovered Earth. What changed your mind? We realized that what looked like chaos was actually flexibility. What seemed like primitive behavior was actually advanced adaptability. Your species thrives in conditions that would paralyze our society. Thomas finished his coffee, and all this from watching us through a cleaning service. The cleaning service revealed more than just your sleeping patterns, she explained. We saw how humans organize their private spaces, how they handle unexpected changes, how they combine work and rest in unique ways. Every home, every office we cleaned taught us something new about human adaptability. Well, Thomas said with a grin, I guess we're pretty good at cleaning up our act. The alien skin flickered in what he was starting to recognize as their version of laughter. But then she grew serious. I should go. I've already shared far more than I was authorized to. My superiors. She stood up abruptly, her form shimmering with what looked like anxiety. Wait, Thomas said quickly. Before you go, do you have a real name I can call you? Something other than Alice from Starbright Cleaning. She hesitated for a moment. In your language, my name would sound like Dawn. Rather ironic for a night shift worker, isn't it? Thomas smiled. I have a feeling this conversation is just the beginning of a new dawn for both our species. The peaceful moment over coffee didn't last long. Dawn's silvery skin suddenly pulsed with bright patterns, and she stood up so quickly her chair fell backward. Her black eyes fixed on something Thomas couldn't see. They know, she said, her voice tight with worry. The Confederation's monitoring systems detected our conversation. They're initiating emergency protocols. Thomas quickly switched into problem-solving mode. It was the same mindset he used during cybersecurity breaches. What exactly does that mean? What kind of protocols? They'll shut down the entire Earth observation program. Starbright Cleaning will disappear overnight. All data will be erased. They believe humans aren't ready for contact. Dawn's form flickered anxiously. I've ruined years of research because I broke protocol. A high-pitched sound filled the room, making Thomas cover his ears. A holographic display appeared in the middle of his living room, showing several alien figures. They looked similar to Dawn, but with different color patterns on their skin. Observer Dawn. One of them spoke, their voice surprisingly human-like. You have violated our most basic protocol. The human must be contained. Actually, Thomas interrupted, standing up. I think you might want to reconsider that. All the aliens turned to look at him. He fought down his nervousness and continued, if you'll give me 2 minutes, I can explain why this might be the best thing that's happened to your research. The aliens looked at each other, their skin patterns shifting rapidly. Finally, the lead figure nodded. Speak. Thomas took a deep breath. Your whole mission is about studying human adaptability, right? Well, what just happened is perfect proof of how adaptable we are. Dawn revealed herself to me. And what did I do? Did I panic? Call the media? Run away screaming? You offered her coffee, one of the aliens noted, sounding puzzled. Exactly, Thomas said. And then we had a normal conversation about our differences. That's human adaptability in action. We don't just adapt our sleep schedules. We adapt to completely new situations. Dawn's skin brightened slightly as she caught on to his point. He's right. The human's reaction provides valuable data about their species' capacity for handling unexpected revelations. Thomas nodded eagerly. Plus, think about what you've learned about humans and secret keeping. How many humans work in sensitive jobs? How many of us keep confidential information every day? We're pretty good at knowing when to keep quiet. The Alien Council seemed to consider this. Their skin patterns moved in complex ways as they communicated with each other silently. Thomas glanced at Dawn, who gave him what he hoped was an encouraging look. The human makes interesting points, the lead alien finally said. But the risk is less than the risk of suddenly shutting down your operation. Thomas interrupted. Think about it. What's more suspicious? One human who knows the truth and has reason to keep quiet, or a whole cleaning company mysteriously vanishing overnight, which would draw more attention. This caused another round of shifting skin patterns among the council. Thomas waited, hoping his logic would work on these beings who seemed to value order and protocol so highly. Perhaps, the lead alien said slowly, we have an opportunity to study human diplomatic capabilities as well. This is an unexpected test case. I can help, Thomas offered. I understand both the need for secrecy and the value of your research, and I'm already awake at night anyway. The Alien Council huddled closer together, their skin patterns synchronizing. After what felt like a very long minute, they turned back to face Thomas and Dawn. We will not terminate the Earth observation program, they announced. Dawn's relief was visible in the way her skin brightened. However, they continued, we will need to establish new protocols. The human Thomas will need to be properly briefed and monitored. I wouldn't expect anything less, Thomas said with a small smile. After all, I work in security. I understand the importance of proper protocols. As the hologram faded away, Dawn turned to Thomas. That was remarkably clever. You used their own research interests to argue for continuation. Thomas shrugged. Just another example of human adaptability. Now, would you like more coffee? I have a feeling we have a lot of new protocols to discuss. The sun was rising outside Thomas's apartment, painting the sky in soft pinks and oranges. He and Dawn had spent the last few hours planning, fueled by coffee and the urgency of their situation. His whiteboard was now covered in notes and diagrams. Let me make sure I understand your proposal, Dawn said, her silvery skin reflecting the morning light. You want to expand the research program rather than restrict it. Thomas nodded, capping his marker. Think about it. You've been studying how humans adapt to different schedules, but that's just scratching the surface. We adapt to way more than just time changes. He pointed to his whiteboard where he had listed examples: work from home transitions during global events, rapid technology adoption, cultural integration, climate adaptation. Humans are constantly changing how we live and work. Dawn studied the list, her large black eyes reflecting the written words. The Confederation values data. If we could document these adaptations. Exactly. Thomas moved to his computer and pulled up some charts. Look at how quickly humans switched to remote work during the last pandemic, or how fast we adopted smartphones. Most species might take generations to adapt to such changes, but humans do it in years or even months. This is true, Dawn admitted. Our original research was focused only on sleep cycles because we couldn't believe how easily humans ignored their biological rhythms. But you're suggesting we study all forms of human adaptation. Thomas grinned. And not just study it. Learn from it. The Confederation is all about order and protocols, right? But what happens when those protocols don't work? Like tonight, when I found out about you. Dawn's skin rippled thoughtfully. We almost shut down the entire program because we couldn't adapt to an unexpected situation. But humans adapt all the time. We're not better or smarter. We're just really good at rolling with the punches. Thomas paused, then saw Dawn's confused expression. Sorry, human phrase. We're good at handling unexpected changes. He turned to a new section of the whiteboard and started writing. Here's what I propose. First, we turn Starbright cleaning into a proper research program. You're already in people's homes and offices. Perfect places to study how humans adapt to different situations. The Confederation would need strict guidelines, Dawn warned. Of course, we set up clear rules about what can be studied and how. Maybe even recruit a few more humans who can be trusted. Scientists, researchers, people used to keeping secrets. Dawn moved closer to the whiteboard, her skin showing patterns Thomas was beginning to recognize as excitement. This could work. Instead of just observing, we could learn how humans manage such rapid adaptation. It could help us prepare for our own unexpected situations. And Thomas added with a smile, you wouldn't have to actually clean anymore. Though I have to say, you aliens are really good at it. Dawn's skin flickered in what he now knew was laughter. The cleaning was never the point, though we did take pride in doing it well. Thomas checked his computer clock. Nearly 6 a.m. The night shift is almost over. Want to help me put together a formal proposal for your bosses? I think if we present it right, they might see the value in studying more than just our weird sleep habits. You're doing it again, Dawn said, sounding amused. Doing what? Adapting. A few hours ago, you discovered aliens exist. Now you're making plans to expand their research program. Her skin shimmered. Most species would still be processing the shock. Thomas shrugged. Well, that's kind of the point, isn't it? Humans don't just adapt. We look for opportunities in change. Now let's make this proposal so good your bosses can't say no. He opened a fresh document on his computer, fingers hovering over the keyboard, ready to show the Confederation what human problem-solving looks like. Dawn moved to stand beside him, her silver skin now glowing with anticipation. Ready, though I suspect they have no idea what they're getting themselves into. That's what makes it fun, Thomas replied with a grin. Now, let's get to work. 1 week after their late-night revelation, Thomas sat in his apartment waiting for news. The Confederation had taken their proposal and gone silent. Even Dawn hadn't visited, though she had left a message saying she would return once a decision was made. He tried to focus on his regular work, but found himself checking his door's smart lock status every few minutes. Just after midnight, it finally beeped. His heart jumped as Dawn walked in, followed by 3 other aliens who had dropped their human disguises. Thomas, Dawn said, her silver skin glowing brightly, meet the Research Council. Thomas stood up, trying to look professional despite wearing his favorite worn-out programming hoodie. Welcome to my home. Would anyone like coffee? The tallest alien stepped forward, skin patterns shifting in complex ways. We have reviewed your proposal extensively. It is unprecedented. I'm guessing that's not usually a good thing in the Confederation, Thomas said with a slight smile. No, another council member agreed. We prefer established patterns. And yet, your proposal suggests this preference for patterns may be our greatest weakness. The third alien moved to examine Thomas's workspace. You humans constantly break patterns, yet somehow maintain functional societies. It defies our understanding of civilization. That's exactly why you should study it, Thomas said. Look at what happened when Dawn's cover was blown. Your first response was to shut everything down, the safest pattern. But sometimes breaking patterns leads to better solutions. The council members' skin patterns synchronized as they communicated silently. Dawn stood quietly, but Thomas noticed her skin had taken on a hopeful glow. Finally, the tall one spoke again. We have decided to approve a modified version of your proposal. Starbright cleaning will become a joint human-alien research initiative. Thomas grinned. Great. What's the first step? We have identified 20 humans worldwide who, like you, have demonstrated exceptional pattern recognition and adaptation abilities. They will be approached gradually and offered positions as research partners. Scientists? Thomas asked. Some, Dawn explained, but also artists, entrepreneurs, emergency responders, humans who regularly adapt to changing situations. The second council member stepped forward. You will help us develop appropriate protocols for these revelations. Your handling of the initial contact with Dawn provides a useful template. I'm honored, Thomas said. But what about the cleaning service cover? It will continue, the third alien said, but modified. Some locations will become official research sites, with human participants' knowledge and consent. Others will remain standard observation posts. And security? Thomas asked, his professional instincts kicking in. The council seemed pleased by the question. That is why we chose you as the first contact. Your background in cybersecurity makes you ideal for helping develop our information protection protocols. Dawn moved to stand beside Thomas. You will work primarily with me, as I have the most experience with human interaction. We will build the framework for future human-alien collaboration. The Confederation has existed for millennia without changing its basic patterns, the tall alien said. Your proposal represents the first major adaptation in our approach to studying other species. It is unsettling, but potentially valuable. Thomas nodded. Change usually is unsettling, but that's how we grow. Indeed. The council members' skin patterns shifted in what Thomas was learning to recognize as agreement. We will begin implementing the new protocols immediately. Wait, Thomas said. It's after midnight here. Don't you need to wait for your day's cycle to start? The aliens looked at each other, and to Thomas's surprise, their skin patterns showed amusement. Perhaps, the tall one said, we can start our own adaptation by being a little more flexible about timing. Dawn's skin flickered with joy. Now that's what I call progress. Well then, Thomas said, moving toward his coffee maker, let's get started. I have a feeling this is going to be a very interesting night shift. 1 year had passed since the night Thomas caught his alien maid scanning his electronics. He sat in his new office at the renamed Starbright Research Initiative, looking out at the night sky through floor-to-ceiling windows. The view of the city at night still amazed Dawn, who stood beside him reviewing holographic data displays. The latest results are fascinating, Dawn said, her silver skin glowing softly in the darkness. Humans in Singapore adapted to the new recycling protocols in just 3 weeks. The Confederation predicted it would take at least 6 months. Thomas smiled, remembering how much had changed in a year. Starbright still operated as a cleaning service on the surface, but now it was the cover for the largest xenological research project in human history. 20 carefully selected humans around the world worked with alien researchers, studying humanity's unique ability to adapt. How's the night shift adaptation program going with your people? Thomas asked, taking a sip of his ever-present coffee. Dawn's skin rippled with excitement. 12 Confederation members have successfully adjusted their sleep cycles to match human patterns. It's unprecedented. She paused, her black eyes reflecting the city lights. Before meeting humans, we thought changing natural rhythms was impossible. Now we're learning it's just another skill to develop. The door chimed, and Dr. Lin walked in. She was one of the 20 humans brought into the program, a sleep researcher from Vancouver who had been studying night shift workers for years. Like Thomas, she had taken the revelation of alien life with remarkable calm. "The new data from the Tokyo study is in," she announced, pulling up her own holographic display. "Humans aren't just adapting to change. We're getting better at it. Each successful adaptation makes the next one easier." "The Confederation is very excited about these findings," Dawn said. "They're already talking about expanding the research to study other unique human traits." Thomas leaned back in his chair. "Like what?" "Your ability to form communities across vast distances, your skill at combining different cultural practices, the way you turn mistakes into opportunities." Dawn's skin showed patterns of amazement. "Even your habit of making jokes in serious situations. We're starting to see its value as a stress management tool." Dr. Lin laughed. "My alien research partner tried telling a joke yesterday. It was horrible, but the attempt alone shows how far we've come." Thomas remembered the rigid, protocol-bound aliens from a year ago. Now they were telling jokes and working night shifts. "Looks like we're not the only ones who can adapt." "That's the most significant finding of all," Dawn said. "By studying human adaptability, we're learning to be more adaptable ourselves. The Confederation has changed more in the past year than in the previous century." Outside, the sky was beginning to lighten with the first hints of dawn. Thomas looked at his alien friend, remembering their first midnight conversation over coffee. "You know, when you first told me your name meant dawn, I thought it was ironic for a night shift worker. But maybe it was perfect. You brought a new dawn for both our species." Dawn's skin shimmered with what Thomas now knew was happiness. "Perhaps, though I still prefer working nights." She picked up her own cup of coffee, a habit many alien researchers had adopted, ready to start reviewing the Paris data. Their experiment in adaptive architecture is showing promising results. "Always ready," Thomas said, pulling up his computer screens. Dr. Lin settled into a nearby chair, and the three of them began their work, human and alien together, sharing ideas and coffee as the sun rose over the city. In apartments and offices around the world, other humans and aliens were doing the same thing, learning from each other, breaking old patterns, and building new understanding. What had started with a simple night shift cleaning job had grown into something much bigger, a bridge between two species, built on humanity's greatest strength, the ability to adapt and grow. The night shift wasn't just about cleaning anymore. It was about creating a future neither species had imagined possible, one cup of coffee at a time.